as far as here is where we need to decide what we are going to call our named instance. You could really call it whatever you want. I will go with something really original as SQL 2012. Okay. Then it's mentioning where will the program files be installed, which is C drive. That is fine. You may have essentially depending on your company, specific areas where you may be installing these files. I will leave those as is. And click next. You can also kind of track our progress on the left side. Right now we are sort of like somewhere in the middle. As far as now it's moved on to disk space requirements. It's saying that we need to have we will be requiring 1.2 gigabytes because I obviously didn't select some of the other options, so we have enough space. Click next. Now this is where we do our server configuration, and like I was mentioning earlier, here are the services that SQL will be running, and by default it's choosing NT Authority Network Service. A much better option is to click on click on the drop down arrow, select browse, and you would want to pick a essentially dedicated domain account, especially if you are running this in a network type setting. I actually have an account that I set up to run this service, and let me look at the list. And here is the account that I set up. It's called SQL Server Service. Okay, and I will select OK, and I actually want to run this for all of them. Okay, so you can paste that one here, paste that one here. Okay, and I can select, I'm going to enter the password. The agent I can run as manual. What that basically means is that when the computer starts, do you want the service to start automatically or not? I will choose everything as manual except for my database engine, which I do want it to start automatically when the machine starts. Collation settings, I'm going to leave the default, which is Unicode SQL Server sort order 52 using code page 2052. These are just basically how SQL handles case sensitivity, if I can say that word. So I will leave default. Everything else looks good. I will click next. Now, as far as the database engine configuration, a couple of important points here. You can choose to run SQL Server in Windows authentication mode, or you can use mixed mode, which basically allows non-Windows clients to access SQL Server. I am just going to leave Windows for now. You can also specify a SQL Server administrator, and I will add the current user, which is me. And then as far as data directories, this is another important point. If you are running SQL Server in a network environment, you want to make sure, like I mentioned, that the data directory is different than the log directory. So even though this is a local PC, I will kind of walk you through the steps. So here I have set up a directory called SQL Data. This happens to be on the same drive, but ideally you would want the log file to be in a separate physical location, and the data file to be in a separate location. In fact, I would even go one step further and assign different locations for the tempdb directory, tempdb log, and then maybe another one for backup where you're where you will store your backups. File stream is another way that you can essentially access large objects on the file system. For now, I don't need this, so I will leave that as is. If you do have a need for it, you can enable it in here. We will select next. This is for the reporting services native mode. I will do next. Some of these other ones I will just kind of go through them. Let's see. We already have all of these, some of the other requirements that is asking for. Since we do have a database, reporting services database already, I will select next. Now here is a summary of basically what we need to go through. You have the prereqs, which we passed. Here are the features we're installing, which is the engine and the reporting service, and a lot of other stuff. And it also tells you where your INI file is going to be. Maybe it's a good idea to keep track of that. And now I think we are ready to install. I will do that. Click on install. And now here is where SQL Server will take a few minutes to run through the whole setup process. I am going to basically pause the video and I will be right back. We are back one more time, and finally I believe this is one of the last times we have to pause. So essentially it says your SQL Server 2012 installation completed successfully without product updates. So we were able to install a database engine, also the reporting services. Couple of important things. Here is a essentially a log of your of our installation. I would definitely save this and even make a copy of this. Basically it has all the parameters, and you know, what account did you use, where did you place the file. So have that handy just in case. And for now I'm going to essentially close that. I did want to mention before I log into SQL Server, when we tried to run this originally, like I mentioned a couple of months ago, I have some screenshots in here. I pretty much followed along, but I think there was one or two points where we needed to essentially take care of things. So today, notice when we ran the setup support rules, it did not have any issues, but the originally when we ran this, we did get a failed notice, which was basically .NET 2.0 and .NET 3.0 3.5 were missing. So if you run into issues like that, what I would do is go to Google, just kind of like so I can show you this, and then say you know, either look for .NET 3.5 SP1 like they mentioned, okay, or another thing, and so you can go to this MSDN site and download it, or you can in fact look for the error that you're receiving and then maybe try to search for that. So I did want to mention that. Before I talk about uninstallation, I want to make sure that we are able to connect to our SQL Server named instance. So I'm going to go to SQL Server 2012, go to Management Studio. Now this time, instead of connecting to the default instance, I am going to try to look for named instance. So here's the login box. I'm going to look for, in fact, let me just try to type in SQL 2012. Okay. Well, it's actually going to be laptop PC / SQL 2012 because it is a named instance. And looks like we are connected, so there should be no databases in here. And you notice that our reporting database has been named report server $SQL 2012. That's how that works. And I should be able to connect to my named instance as well, which you can just use period. Okay, so we do have our named instance up here and default instance in here. This one did have some databases in there already. Before I talk about uninstallation, I do want to mention, as far as running services, you always want to do that using the configuration tools and then SQL Server Configuration Manager. And click on continue. Before this, you were able to do that using the services module under admin tools. It is preferred. that you do this using the config manager as is recommended by the Microsoft website. But when you come in here, and maybe I can sort it like this, you will notice that I have essentially 4 services running. Here is my original SQL Server engine, okay, and then here is our named instance, and here's the agent, and here's the second agent, which we chose not to start automatically. As for its properties, you can right click on here and go to properties and configure some settings. We actually do have another video that talks in detail about this, but I did want to mention that. So real quickly, as far as doing a uninstall, I'm not going to go through this, but basically anytime you are maybe moving databases from one server to another or doing an uninstall of SQL, you want to make sure that all your users are logged out. You want to make sure that the logins and the users are scripted out of the database. Any SQL jobs, alerts, operators need to be backed up and also scripted out so you can install them on a new server. And then very important point, your databases need to be backed up, and then the SQL services should be stopped. And then finally you can run the uninstall from within control panel. So if you go to control panel, you can go to add remove programs or program features depending on what you have. And then once your list populates, you should be able to select SQL Server and then uninstall the product. So I believe that is all we have today. Thank you for watching the video.